Really quick, you guys know a money donation to the chapter for the raffles is over here. You probably read through the upcoming meetings. I'm going to cover some announcements. There's a call for photos and you do a signature release. You'll email this person, Jacob Dykes. He has a student working for a project, for an extension project. They're promoting water for wildlife. So if you have any photos of water guzzlers, rain gardens, protected riparian zones, and water efficient landscapes, he needs those photographs. So pass that on to the class if you can. Let's see. I have a lot of announcements that came through at the last minute, so sorry about this. Membership announcements, please be sure to sign in. If you haven't signed in, definitely do that. And then if you ordered your t-shirt, they're here. And if you don't remember your color, that's okay. Just look for your name. It's on the shirt. And then she also has the research pins and any research certs that you haven't picked up yet. And then Sharon, where are you? She has a couple announcements, so I'll let her give those. Come on down.
I have my teacher voice.
Okay.
First announcement is that Britt is having an environmental science family day on Saturday, October 12th from 10 till 2. And Cross Timbers usually has a table and is, you know, there are a lot, I can't remember the list of other organizations that are going to have a table, but Master Gardeners is one and so forth, and it's a day for families to come around. And I know y'all can see me, and I probably know my name is Sharon. So if you are willing, it's outreach, and it does count as volunteer hours for VMS. If you are able to do that, and again, it's just a Brit out here outdoors. It's a nice day. What day and time, Karen? That is a Saturday, October 12th, from 10 till 2. That gave me time to remember my other announcements. Since I have moved out of the city of Fort Worth, TCU would like a Fort Worth resident to be part of the Neighborhood Climate Safe Coalition. And mainly what that means is attending meetings about once a month. You can either attend by Zoom or you can attend at one of the South Side libraries. It's the 76104 zip code, and the work that has been done for the last few years by the nursing program and public health program is at Glenwood Park, which is a historical park here in Fort Worth. And it would be nice if we could continue to have a representative. I don't think I ever was raised my hand to volunteer. I just attended and gave my moral support. So think about that. Thank you. Yes.
How do you talk?
Talk to me. Did that count already? Okay.
Thank you. And I didn't tell you who I am. Brent, you always remind me, who are you? So my name is Teddy Zonker, Vice President. That sounds really weird. I'm standing in for Mary Beth tonight. She had surgery, back surgery, maybe 2 weeks ago. So she's recovering well. She'll hopefully be here in October. What I'll do is introduce Monica, but then Suzanne's going to speak really quick before Monica speaks. So I'm excited because Texas Native Cats, Monica Morrison made the drive from Dallas. She was a Dallas Zoo volunteer, a tiger docent, Big Cat Rescue Centers volunteer. She worked on an ocelot study in Mexico, African lions in Kenya, Africa, jaguar, big cat projects throughout South America. She is the founder of Texas Native Cats as of 2017. And And I love this program. This was one of the first places that I volunteered when I became a master naturalist last year. A lot of outreach, and it's not just sitting at a table. You think, oh, you're just at a table, but it's really fun because we play cat sounds and the people guess what cat it is. And she brings Terry, this ocelot, is he an ocelot? Taxidermy bobcat. She found him. She did not do that. So it's really fun. If you want to volunteer with her, she could use our help. I think that's it. And then now Suzanne Tuttle will speak on Tandy Hills, a little bit of help that they need out there. So bear with us. We're going to switch over the slides.
Just one second.
This one. Yep. Thank you to Meredith.
Okay, hi everybody, I'm Suzanne Tuttle. I wanted to come and let y'all know about a really exciting to me new opportunity to help out the beautiful Tandy Hills natural area. Don and Deborah Young, after many, many years of being the primary stewards at Tandy Hills, they want to take a step back and they would like to have help in caring for the property. As you probably know, the city of Fort Worth doesn't really have the resources to devote to really taking care of Tandy Hills. Especially, they have a brand new trail system that the Friends of Tandy Hills paid a lot of money to have blazed, and the city doesn't have any resources to actually maintain the trail. And so that's one of the things we're trying to get some volunteers together to periodically, maybe once a month or once a quarter, go out there and do trail maintenance. Also some educational opportunities like spring wildflower tours and things like that. So after the, we're having a field trip. The training class is having the field trip out at Tandy Hills on October the 6th. And after that field trip, it should be cooler. Kate Morgan and I are going to try to organize a meeting or two, maybe a weekday meeting and a weekend meeting, because people have different, different time availability. And so if you're interested in helping with Tandy Hills at all, please feel free to text me or email me, and I put the Tandy Hills website up there. So if you're not familiar with Tandy Hills, you can just get a little look. This is a picture I took of one of the wildflower meadows in the spring. It's a wonderful place. So I know that established master naturalists have a lot of other irons in the fire, that you've already established relationships with other groups. But in case you're looking for a new exciting place to work, then think about Tandy Hills. Thank y'all.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right, good deal, good deal. Thank you so much for having me here. I think it was 2017, 2018. I presented here once before, and I'm delighted to be back here. I am also a master naturalist myself, the North Texas chapter, and have been a master naturalist for 13 years. So, yeah. So always delighted to present to master naturalists. I always feel like, we're kindred spirits. We don't have to necessarily explain the importance of what it is we're doing. So very glad to be here. All right, so let's get started here. I am going to focus on two of our remaining cat species in Texas, the mountain lion, which has a lot of different names, as well as the ocelot. All right, the other cat we have in Texas still is the bobcat. I'm not speaking about bobcats tonight unless at the end you've got some questions. I will try to answer those. So photo credit here. This is from my friend Ben Masters. Show of hands, how many of you have seen the wildlife film Deep in the Heart? Yes, great. Okay, good news for you. Ben is planning a sequel next year. And it will feature mountain lions. He showed some of us some fantastic footage that he has of those cats in Western Texas. Oh my gosh, you're in for a treat. So Ben, let me use that photo. Let's move on here. So the topic tonight is ocelots and mountain lions, a turning point for these cats. I will say that our Texas cats overall have been beleaguered for a long, long time. We've lost 2 species already. We used to have jaguars. We used to have another small cat called the jaguarundi. They are both extinct in Texas now. We're left with 3. The bobcat of the 3 seems to be holding its own pretty well, simply because there are so many of these cats. Lots and lots of cats all over Texas, all over the country. That leaves us with the ocelot and the mountain lion. Now, I will tell you, I'm going to focus most of my attention tonight on the mountain lion. The ocelot picture is just beginning to come to focus here in terms of what's going to happen for this cat, but it's both of these have absolutely wonderful news, finally, for both these species. So let's talk about the ocelot first. Currently, there is a small endangered population of these cats in far South Texas. And when I talk far South Texas, I'll show you a map in a minute. We're talking around Brownsville and Harlingen. Okay, you can't get much farther south than that in Texas. That's where those cats live. They are classified as endangered by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as well as Texas Parks and Wildlife, and have been endangered since, really for about 40 plus years, a long, long time. Right now, it's estimated that there are anywhere from 80 to 100 of these cats, which is still an increase in numbers over what they had been several years ago, especially due to car strikes in South Texas. I'll talk about a little bit of that as well. Texas has, and this is quite remarkable, the only breeding ocelots in the United States in South Texas. There is occasionally a male ocelot seen in southern Arizona, kind of in the same general area where you may have heard about jaguars occasionally coming up through Mexico. But so far they've only been males, so of course there's no breeding taking place in Arizona. There is breeding here. These cats in Texas are confined to a very small area called thorn scrub. Now, how many of you have ever been to Laguna Abascosa National Wildlife Refuge? Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. Like, oh my gosh, this stuff looks horrible. I mean, for humans and so many other mammals, it's very, very inhospitable terrain and shrubs. But it's ideal for the cats because they can hide in there and they're pretty well protected in that thorn scrub. Believe it or not, we used to have ocelots as far north as DFW. Wow. Yeah, they used to exist in about 2/3 of the state of Texas, Louisiana, and Arizona. And now they are confined to far South Texas. Yeah, and you know the cause of that. I don't think I have to tell you probably what was the primary factor affecting these cats. It happens to be those of us that walk on 2 legs. Yes, humans. They have faced a bleak future for a long time. As Teddy mentioned, years ago, I went on a research trip with the Dallas Zoo to the state of Tamaulipas in Mexico, just across the border from Harlingen. And we studied ocelots there for about 2 weeks. We captured several and radio collared them. The idea was ultimately that the research gained from that study would lead to a translocation of a female ocelot from Tamaulipas into Texas. It's the same subspecies of cats. And over the years, nothing has happened. It's been one of these between Mexico and the US, quite literally. So much so that I just thought this is never going to happen. The idea was bring one over to help with the gene pool in Texas, help spur the breeding, and that these cats could increase in number. But as I say, it was just apparently a pipe dream. Never has happened. So they faced a very bleak future until recently. Now let's talk for just a moment about our mountain lion. Texas mountain lions, on the other hand, are the other end of the spectrum. They are classified in Texas as non-game. Do you know what that means? Does that mean something to you? Does to a few of you? Okay, non-game essentially means a species with no protection. They can be hunted, they can be trapped, they can be killed year-round. Typically, all you have to have is a valid hunting or trapping license to do either one. And there's no mortality reporting, nothing. So mountain lions and bobcats of our feline species both fit into that non-game classification. So they're non-game, and yet Texas Parks and Wildlife has some real concerns about them, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. We have 2 populations that we know of in Texas, the West Texas population, the Trans-Pecos, and the South Texas population. There are real concerns, especially about the South Texas population. The Cats are hunted, they've been trapped. I can now say, however, they are non-game species with limited regulations. Limited, it's coming. No. This is just the start, folks. This is just the start, I guarantee you. In spite of all this, of what the picture that I painted, there is really reason for optimism for both species. So let's talk about the ocelot a bit more. As I mentioned, it's endangered in South Texas. 95% of its habitat is gone. 95%. And those of you that have been down to lower Rio Grande Valley, you've seen the highways that are there. What really astounded me when I was there the first time were the wind turbines. My gosh, they're huge, as you know, and kind of loud if you're outside. So they have to contend with that and hurricanes and so forth. Okay, that's covering up some of my text. Urbanization is their biggest threat. No, actually, it was one of their biggest threats that occurs down there. Car strikes are the biggest problem that they face, right? And there was one year, I think it was 2016 or so, I believe there were 8 killed by cars. When you have such a limited population, 8 is quite significant, as you well know. All right, so ocelot facts, just a little bit about them. What do they eat? Well, they're small cats, first of all, so they don't eat typically big animals by any means. Rodents, rabbits, fish. They live, as we said, in the thorn scrub in far South Texas. Their range is South Texas, all the way down through the Amazon. The Amazon is their true base. That's where almost, with the exception of our bobcat, that's where all of our cats originated in this country. All right, the Amazon is their stronghold. They migrated north. So that's where you find the most of them. They weigh 15 pounds, 30, I think, would be a really big ocelot. And the males are bigger than the females, but that's a really large ocelot. They're not a whole lot bigger than a house cat, quite frankly. Breeding is maybe 1 to 4 kittens, although 1 or 2 is quite typical. And they don't typically breed too often. So limited birth rates for these cats as well. But here's the great news, folks. Last August, Texas A&M Kingsville received a nearly $14 million grant from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, with $12 million of that earmarked to breed ocelots in captivity in South Texas. Like, what? Yeah, I was stunned when I read that. It's going to be funding for 5 years of ocelot research in South Texas, and the cats will be bred in captivity to be released into the wild. This is really going to help support this cat. It could, honestly, if it succeeds, and everyone is of the opinion that it will be a game changer for this cat. The other portion of that grant, nearly $2 million, is earmarked to study the impact of border barriers on black bears, which have made a resurgence in Texas. They are a threatened species, as well as mountain lions. I really don't think it's going to be any surprise to anybody that some of these border barriers we have are formidable obstacles to cross-boundary movement. We had a presentation earlier in the year from an organization called the Sky Island Alliance in Arizona, and they have been studying their border wall, New Mexico and California's, extensively. And they have some videos in there where they showed both black bears and mountain lions trying to get through. And you know, you're talking in some places a 30-foot barrier. Nothing can get over that. However, I will say, there's been a male jaguar that somehow or another managed to get in, and then he managed to get back out. But that's a jaguar. So that's the good news that has been received. Now, what does all that mean? RecoverTexasOcelots.org is a site I would refer you to, but not today. I went out to look at it this afternoon, and it seems they have not renewed their domain. So guess what? I notified them. I said, you might want to fix this. Oh my gosh, they didn't realize it. So they'll get it fixed hopefully within the next few days. Highly recommend you go take a look at that. There's a lot of information in there about what's going on. I will say the goal is to get the number of cats to 200. If we can get these cats to number 200, then they can come off the endangered species list. what a remarkable achievement for this cat and for the people that are making it happen. The cats will be reintroduced, or the reintroduced cats that are going to be released will be on the San Antonio Viejo Ranch, which is owned by the East Foundation. The East Foundation is a pivotal partner in this effort, very much behind this breeding program and the release of these cats. So they will be released there and potentially other private lands in South Texas. And you think, okay, we all know this because we're master naturalists, right? 95% of land in Texas is privately owned, right? We know that. Okay, and you think, wait a minute, how do they talk these landowners into this? Now, do they really have to worry that an ocelot is going to kill their livestock? No, not really. No, they're too small. But as an endangered species, there are typically all kinds of constraints that come along with that status and what people have to do if they have an endangered species on their land. So what happened is U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service initiated what's called a safe harbor agreement with landowners. And it was on the landowner's part, purely voluntary for them to sign it or not. So a number of them have. I don't know how many. I don't honestly know which ones. I think they're probably keeping that quiet. And the safe harbor agreement essentially says that if the landowners will allow ocelots on their land, that if something should happen to that ocelot, if it gets killed, if it gets injured, that Fish and Wildlife will hold harmless that landowner. So the landowners then have been given the green light to go ahead and do your ranching, your farming as you always do. Be aware of these ocelots, but if something happens, it happens. That's the only way any of this would have ever happened. Without that safe harbor agreement, we'd still be back to 100 ocelots and no sign of improvement. So essential to have that. Okay, well, I can't really read all that. So anyway, but that's just, that's what's successful about the agreement. Would increase the number of ocelots. Not only that, it will increase the genetic diversity. One of the concerns in South Texas for these cats has been inbreeding, just as it has been for other species. Most notably, you probably know that about the Florida panther. A lot of inbreeding occurred there years ago. So this will help to safeguard that. So where do they live? Okay, again, if I can step over here. Can everybody still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so Cameron, Willacy, and Kennedy counties right here on the coast are their current habitat.
Might check with the Zoomers because they may not be able to hear you without the microscope.
Microphone,
sorry,
microscope, whatever it is. Sorry, Zoomers. No.
That only comes through there. They're picking you up on the computer itself, right?
Well, that's okay. I can try to stand in front of this. Okay, so those are the 3 counties where they exist currently. This breeding program is going to shift the release of these ocelots that are bred farther west. It will still be South Texas, but it would be Cameron and Jim Hogg counties. All right, the reason for that, quite frankly, one of the big reasons is they wanted to get them away from the current population. Another concern along the coast, of course, is hurricanes. So they wanted to safeguard these cats. So that's the plan, to release them on these private lands in Texas. So other successful reintroductions that have occurred over time, we all know these, right? The bald eagle, the gray wolf, the black-footed ferret, the condor, and hopefully soon we'll have a 5th bullet on here that says ocelots in Texas. That'd not be amazing. So Ocelot Underpass, this is another undertaking that TxDOT has contributed in South Texas. They've built, I think it's somewhere on the order of around 8 or 10 different underpasses in South Texas, not just for ocelots. I mean, quite frankly, it's for all wildlife, but the hope was that ocelots would use it. And they're a little bit, I don't know, they seem to be a little bit hesitant, more so than some other species. The bobcats just back and forth, the coyotes and so forth. It took the ocelots a little while to realize, okay, what is this thing? And now they're using it. And these underpasses really do save lives. And not only that, of course, by channeling wildlife through there, they are preventing car strikes, which of course damages cars, or worse, And it's really, I don't know if you've ever seen any of these before, but they have fences on either side, both sides, actually, both sides and on both sides of the highway for these underpasses that kind of channels the animals down into the underpass. So they can't just dart across the highway. And it's been so successful, TxDOT is planning to build more in the state. So, yeah, good news. Sorry?
Yeah, Parker County.
Party, yeah, okay.
Smaller city out there in January.
Oh, and deer are big enough to cause some real damage, if not more to your cars. Yes, yes. This image is from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I think it's just beautiful little photo here. I will say one of the factors too that has contributed in years past to the demise of this cat. I don't think it was so much in Texas, but more so in Latin America. These cats were heavily harvested for their fur, for the fur trade. Thousands and thousands and thousands were killed. It's now illegal. Does it still happen? I imagine, but not in the numbers that it did. So that's ocelots in South Texas. Now I'm going to move on. Teddy, how much time do I have? Never mind, I'll look. 7:30. Okay. As I told her, I said, if you let me, I'll stay up here all night talking about cats. I'm sure you'd like to go home at some point. So mountain lions in Texas. This cat was a collared cat out in West Texas in Fort Davis. It was part of a research study there. You can kind of see a little bit of the collar there. So that's what I'm going to be talking about next, our mountain lion. This this image, I don't know if anybody has been down there to see it. I have not. One of these days, I hope to. I actually got in touch with Shumla Archaeological Research Education Society, and they've got some other images as well. And it's really, when you see the actual image that she sent me, the woman there, she said, you can really get a much better sense of what this is. But this is a cave painting from thousands of years ago, far South Texas. As you probably know, Native people typically revered cats. I mean, the mountain lion, the puma, as it's called, mostly in South America, and the jaguar, of course, being the biggest cat we have. Yes. And even the smaller ones, even the ocelots, they just made a real tribute to these animals. So mountain lion trivia facts. All right. For those of you that were here and heard my speech in 2017, you might remember this slide. I don't know, but I always ask it, but so it's fun to see what people think. All right. How many, show of hands, or just, you can tell me, just tell me, raise out or speak up and say, how many species of exotic cats exist in the world, do you think? I'll give you a hint. It's between 25 and 50. Any guesses? None?
35.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? I feel like I'm an auctioneer.
Who says 37?
37. Who said 40? Okay, all right, you're closest. All right. And it varies depending on where you're getting your information from. I go with what Panthera says. If you're not familiar with Panthera, it is the worldwide cat organization. That's all they focus on is wild cats. And the Panthera says there are 40. The vast majority of those are very small cats, probably, which you probably never heard of many of these, the Andean cat, the fishing cat, the marble-headed cat, the flat-headed cat, and so on it goes. A lot of these are endangered, and a lot of them we know very little about them. But that's what Panthera says. So different names for our mountain lion. Those of us in the western part of the country typically refer to this cat as a mountain lion. However, there are not California, Oregon, Washington, and the Canadian provinces in the West refer to them as cougars. Florida panther is a cougar, puma, mountain lion. And a little bit of interesting history here. Florida panthers have a little bit of Texas pumas in them. About, gosh, I don't know, it's probably 30, 40 years ago by now. The Florida panther was having a lot of genetic problems because of inbreeding. They were landlocked, they still are for that matter, landlocked. They're surrounded by highways and farming and ranching, so much so that it caused inbreeding problems. You know, the crossed eyes, the kinked tails, and so on. So Texas to the rescue. There were several female mountain lions taken from Big Bend National Park, taken to South Florida. to breed with the cats down there to help even out the genetic abnormalities. And I will say our girls did a good job. They really did. Go cats. So they produced offspring. The offspring did not have the genetic abnormalities that had been present prior to that. And then at the end of this breeding program, the girls were taken back to Big Bend. So yeah, it's a pretty cool story. All right, so a lot of different names. Typically, as I say, mostly you'll hear mountain lion around here. You see the derivation of some of these names. Again, think of where these cats, where their stronghold is. It's in South America mostly. And next, I just want to show you briefly a little bit of the lineage of our cats. Now, I have just condensed some of these just for the sake of space on the screen. What I wanted to show you here were two. The Panthera lineage, those are the true big cats of the world. All right, the tiger is the biggest, followed by the African lion, followed by our very own jaguar, number 3, and then leopards. Mountain lions, while a large cat, are not considered a true big cat by scientists, in part because they can't roar. They can purr, which the big cats can't do, but they can't roar. So mountain lions are actually the 4th biggest cat in the world, but they're not true big cats. So those are the big cats. They are the oldest. They've been here for 10, almost 11 million years before present time. And then later on, the other ones followed those. So you see there toward the top, we have the puma lineage, the puma and the jaguarundi, that if you look at the postcard up here, this little bitty, this cat really is even smaller than an ocelot. Strange looking cat. I've seen one in Mexico in the wild. And the cheetah. Yeah, the cheetah, you think, wait a minute, how did the cheetah get in there? Well, if you think back in your geography lesson from way back when, you know that at one point there was one landmass. And so a lot of species, you know, could not intermingle necessarily, intermingle, but move back and forth. So much so I remember reading last year, I think it was, somebody was walking along the Mississippi riverbank and there had been a big drought. So the river level had dropped a lot. And this fellow came across something sticking out of the bank there and he pulled it out. It's this gigantic jawbone. Turns out it was an African lion jawbone from prehistoric times. Yeah, can you imagine finding that? Wouldn't that be awesome? Anyhow, so not too surprising when you take it in that context. So where do these cats live? All right, this is historic range is the brown all across the United States, part of southern Canada, all the way down to the tip of South America. It's the most widely spread terrestrial mammal in this hemisphere outside of us. Ranges in 28 different countries. It's amazing. Talk about an adaptable species. It's our mountain lion. The red indicates the current habitat. And again, here, if you look at the map of South America, where the Amazon is, right in here, you can tell, yeah, that's where those cats live. If you've never been to the Amazon, I highly recommend it. It's fantastic. It's just a fantastic place to see, my favorite. So that's where they live now. They've been confined here in the United States to the west in the Rocky Mountains, and then up into Canada and so on. So what happened? Why did those cats lose their territory? Because of us, again, not us directly, not those of us that are here, but our forebears. When the Europeans began to colonize this country 200-300 years ago, they came with this attitude that the only good predator was a dead one, and they did a darn fine job of eliminating predators. So that's why to this day, you don't find mountain lions, bears, and wolves in the eastern part of the country, or really, until recently, not even the central part of the country. They hold up in the west, and that's where they've been ever since. So, but you do see, of course, right here, that's the Florida panther. That's the only breeding population of mountain lions in the eastern part of the country. So they are the second largest cat in the Americas after our jaguar. There's 6 subspecies of these cats. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the IUCN classify them as least concern, which is just what it says. Yeah, they're fine. There's plenty of them. We're not worried about them, except Florida, where they are endangered. I will say You may have heard people talk about seeing black panthers. There has been no confirmed sighting of a black panther ever. Now, is it possible there could be one? Nobody's going to say, no, absolutely not, but there's nothing been confirmed. I remember last December, the Houston Chronicle reached out to me and said that a landowner outside of Houston had seen a black panther on his property and he had a photo of it. Well, you know what happens? People take these images and there's a creature way out in a field. You get no sense of depth perception, perspective on what this was. And everybody, me and Texas Parks and Wildlife, all said, no, that's a domestic cat. So hope springs eternal. Maybe someday somebody will actually find a documented case of a black panther. Where do they live? As you can tell at some level from that range map, they live just about wherever they want. There have even been mountain lions, or as they call them there, cougars, swimming to the islands off the coast of Washington State. So they're very remarkable, adaptable, resilient cats. Primary diet is deer. Of course, in this state, that's mule deer and white-tailed deer. The males have a much bigger range than the females. When they leave mom at usually somewhere between 12 to 18 months, the males have to go far distances because they have to establish their own territory. They cannot go to a territory where an established tomcat is. That tomcat will fight them and will try to kill them. So they have to keep moving. That's why their range is bigger. The females, on the other hand, will usually stay relatively close to their mother's range. The girls, for some reason, get along better than the boys. I don't know why, but they do. They will kill feral hogs. Go cats. Yay. Yeah, you think that's just amazing that they do. Now, I'm not going to say that's a big part of their diet. It's not. It's too bad we don't still have jaguars here because jaguars would be killing them all the time, but we don't have those anymore. The ranges for the males, again, are much bigger than the females. Females, as I say, generally fairly concise around their mom's territory. The males are bigger than the females. Our mountain lions in Texas, just like our bobcats, tend to be smaller than they are in some of the western states, and that's climate driven and prey availability, but a lot of that's really just climate because it's, it's hot here in Texas, we know that. They can jump, they can leap some pretty amazing distances, and in captivity, assuming they have good care, they can live to be around 20 years. In the wild, not so much. 12, maybe 14, it just depends. I asked Mark Elbrock. Mark is the director of Panthera's Puma program that I mentioned, Panthera, a minute ago. An expert. He's a renowned individual who is well known for his expertise in mountain lion research. And I asked him, I said, Mark, I have this theory about why cats at any rate, and maybe all predators, just don't, not all, because some of them do live a long time, but cats don't live too long. And I said, my theory is that they expend so much energy in their kills. And a lot of times they don't succeed. They can be injured, they can be killed. And I said, I think it's just very taxing on their systems. And he says, yeah, it's essentially it. In Texas, they can breed all year long. In other states, it's more cyclical depending on the seasons, but here they can breed all year. So where are two distinct populations? West Texas, El Paso, Trans-Pecos. You know what I mean by Trans-Pecos because you're master naturalists. Some people look at me like, what are you talking about? Trans-Pecos, and then the South Texas population, Valverde County, roughly about here, which Texas Parks and Wildlife considers to be kind of the marking, the jumping off spot between West and East or South Texas. South Texas, along the border there are some as well. They are starting to reclaim territory eastbound. You may remember in December of 2020, there was a mountain lion shot to death outside of Rowlett. Yeah, we remember that. Yeah, and now where that cat came from, who knows? But we don't typically have mountain lions here. Although one of these days I'm going to go to downtown Fort Worth and see that sleeping panther. I thought about it on the way over today and I thought, dang, I should have left a little bit earlier and gone through downtown and found that cat. So
What about
anyway.
the one that was hit in Palo Pinto?
That one, so theory, I've heard somebody from Texas Parks and Wildlife say, because he's I don't know if he's a game warden or what he is, or, no, I think he's a park ranger. He said they also found a dead ocelot outside somewhere along there. And ocelots, as I say, don't live up here. He thinks, especially owing to the size and the weight of that cat, the mountain lion, it was somebody's pet that either got out or was let out. Don't know, really don't know the story behind it. Of the two populations we have, the larger population is in West Texas. That's considered to be the stable population. Although a lot of that stability, it's believed, is owed to the fact these cats immigrate from Mexico and New Mexico into West Texas. However, big caveat, trapping is very, very extensive in West Texas. So many of them die in traps. The South Texas population is considered unstable. The Parks and Wildlife believes it may have declined by as much as 50% over time. And they classify, Parks and Wildlife, interestingly enough, classifies this cat as threatened to imperiled. And yet it has, I won't say no protection, but it's still a non-game species, which, by the way, that's the classification the legislature gave it about 50 years ago, not Parks and Wildlife. So two populations that we know of so far. Just a paw, just so you can see what they look like. By the way, if you ever want to go see big cats, go out to InSync Exotics in Wiley. I know from here it's a bit of a hike, but go on a Saturday or Sunday. There are about 80 big cats out there. Rescues. They're almost every one of them is a rescue. And they have tigers, mountain lions, bobcats, you name it, just about. And it's an excellent facility. InSync, INSYNC Exotics. Open to the public on the weekends. So here is a confirmed sightings map that the Parks and Wildlife maintains. It's real time. I took this about a year ago, so it's a little bit dated now, but you still get the idea. You can really see on this map, where is the stronghold of these cats? Trans-Pecos, right? West Texas. And then as you go farther southeast and north and so forth, the numbers decline. And around here where we are, that number one could very well have been that mountain lion that we know was killed in Rowlett. Yes, sir.
West Texas, in general, West Texas, with specific areas, not from Vicksburg.
I'm from El Paso.
Yeah.
I'm really West Texas.
Heard about Austin, I never saw one. There's sightings here and there. Or is are they concentrated in certain counties?
Of what? Of mountain lions?
Austin?
Ocelots? No. No, that's why I say okay, so the question is, were there ocelots in West Texas? Is that your question? Mountain lions, yes, but not ocelots, not anymore. Not anymore. No, those have all been, all the ocelots are now confined to far South Texas. That one that the park ranger said was killed was, if likely, somebody's pet. Although that's illegal because it's an endangered species. But anyway, people.
I had a friend and her dad had a mountain lion and an ocelot in the backyard.
Okay.
Maybe it was that.
We thought it was cool back then.
Yeah. I know. Okay, so I'm not gonna go into all of these, but here are some potential factors, or not some, they're just potential, some of them really are factors in the demise of our apex predator in Texas. Definitely the predator control or trapping is still very prevalent, especially in West Texas. There's some amount of hunting, we're not sure how much. Removal and retaliation and wildlife killing contests. Although I don't know that there's a whole lot of contests in Texas regarding lions because there aren't, as far as we believe, there aren't that many lions here. Otherwise, there are some unintentional actions, a lot of them, of course, caused by us again, unknown factors. I mean, some of these, like, well, the border wall, I think we're going to figure that one out if we haven't already. Climate change. Rodenticide? Nobody's ever looked into rodenticide here. If you're interested, the Park Service out in California and the Santa Monica and Santa Ana mountains have done some amazing research on the impacts of rodenticide on both bobcats and mountain lions. It's pretty scary stuff. So why do we want to conserve mountain lions? They're the top predator we have in the state. They are the top of the food chain. They help, all predators help to maintain lesser species from proliferating. If we maintain the predators, we maintain the lower species. We don't want the lower species just exploding in growth. They may want to kill deer. They do kill deer with chronic wasting disease. Everybody know what that is? Yeah, okay. Most people around here do, I know. Yes, it's becoming more and more prevalent in Texas, especially among captive deer herds. If you ever want to listen to it, you can listen to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Commission meetings when the deer breeders get up there and start talking about deer. But it's a huge problem. The cats will kill these deer with chronic wasting disease, which is good because highly contagious disease. There's no cure, no treatment, nothing for it. And they take them out of circulation. So they're really doing a service. And amazingly enough, the cats do not develop the disease themselves. So you'd think between feral hogs and killing deer with chronic wasting disease, we'd be importing these cats, wouldn't you? I do, but nobody's asked me my opinion of that yet. They will provide more than 3 million pounds of meat daily for other species. Now that's across their range. That's an amazing contribution to the ecosystem. All right, so again, just a simple graphic illustrating the benefits of what a mountain lion does with this regulatory control that it has over the environment. Trickles all the way down, again, sorry you can't see it on here, but all the way down to the very bottom where you've got insects and rodents and such on the ground. Threats to humans. All right, we all know there have been some cases where mountain lions, particularly in the West, have sadly have killed some people, and certainly they do kill pets if they can get them. There have been no deaths in Texas by mountain lions. There have been a couple of attacks, I think out in Big Bend, but no deaths. Okay, all right, what do you do if you see a mountain lion? Don't freak out is the first word. Don't freak out, don't freak out. Stay calm. I know that sounds ridiculous when you're faced with a big predator like that, but that's your best defense. Pick up kids and pets, bring everybody together, make yourselves look bigger. If you have jackets on, take them off, yell. You can throw things at it, move back slowly, and start putting some distance between you and that cat. Whatever you do, do not run, because mountain lions can run about 30 miles an hour and we can't. So when you run from a cat, you're triggering the predator-prey instinct. Those of you with house cats have probably seen that. If they see something scurrying around, it's like, oh boy, and zoom, they go right back and try to get it. If you ever attack, fight back everything you have. Okay, threats to livestock. Coyotes and domestic dogs cause more problems for domestic livestock than mountain lions ever do. Sheep and goat loss are about, not a little under 6% caused by mountain lions. Some ideas to conserve livestock to help them. Night penning, which doesn't happen in Texas, you know, where people, they let them out in these, they're great big areas that they own. Guard dogs, which, okay, I have this really amazing idea for guard dogs, but you'll have to invite me back later for another speech because I've got some really good ideas. I'm already working on it. Electric fencing has been shown to be very, very effective against cats. There was a study done in Chile where the predators, certainly the biggest mountain lions on the planet, live down there. And they kill a lot of livestock. So there was a scientific study several years ago checking out, okay, do electric fences work? How about lighting? Lighting. Amazing. It deters the cats. It was even done in Africa on African lions, and it was effective. It didn't work on foxes, though. Foxes figured it out. The cats might eventually as well. There's some other things there. Maintain the toms. This one I heard at a mountain lion workshop several years ago from a landowner in Colorado and Wyoming who owned a lot of land. And he said, yeah, the cats can be a problem. He said, but he was directing his comment to the audience, which was mostly fish and game folks. He said, if you maintain the toms, they will take care of the subadult dispersing males, the ones I call the teenagers. The teenagers, yeah, that they don't know how to hunt very well. They've just left mom. They're trying to figure out who they are when they grow up and where they're going to live. And he said, these toms will police them. He said, it's the young adults that are causing the predation problems. So relocation, depending on circumstances, can work, but you never want to try to relocate a tom. It just won't work because you're going to put it in another tom's territory. Okay, just simple image here. This is called a boma in Kenya on one of my research trips that I did. Very simple enclosure. It's portable. They herd all of their livestock into there at night. And as you well know, there's a lot of predators in Africa. They herd them in there so tightly that the animals really can't get around. They can't move much. If a predator gets in there, it's going to get trampled to death. So very effective. I saw some high-tech ones several years ago. The Cattle Raisers Association here in Fort Worth had their annual meeting downtown, and I went to it. It was interesting. And they had a high-tech version of this. It was odd how many thousands and thousands of dollars. Livestock guard dogs. Okay, these are specific dogs, dog breeds that have been around for thousands of years. They originated in Asia and then in Europe to guard against wolf predation in those areas of the world. They are, a lot of them are 125 pounds, very large dogs. Depending on which species it is, they will fight to the death to protect their herds. Texas A&M AgriLife has a big program out in San Angelo on livestock guard dogs that I attended earlier this year. Fascinating, just fascinating, but very, very effective in protecting herds. So, okay, all that's background. You think, okay, lady, would you get to the good news, please? All right, so that is now. So that's early mountain lion management. Yeah, I know. That's from 100 years ago when they were treated as vermin, which sadly, I think there are still people in Texas that view them this way. Okay, they do. Current status, non-game. There's no limit on the number you can kill. There's no mortality reporting that's required right now. We are only one of 2 states that allow trapping, the other one being Utah. They are classified, as I mentioned earlier, as imperiled, threatened to imperiled, and in the species of greatest conservation need, they are classified in that as well. We have no management plan for this cat currently. So prior efforts to help, there are a couple of them. One was it was legislation back in the early 90s. There was a push for game status. It never went anywhere, didn't get any traction. That one failed. Scientists came together in 2010, essentially trying to identify threats and concerns and some potential solutions. Flatlined on that one too. A graphic here to represent the status in the other states. I'll just summarize and say the other states, by and large, classify this cat as a big game, meaning there's hunting allowed, not trapping, but hunting with seasons, bag limits. They protect females with kittens or spotted cats. They require what's called harvest reporting, mortality reporting, and only Texas and Utah allow trapping. Texas is the outlier. We're the outlier still to this day. The numbers at the bottom represent, and unfortunately, again, it's obscured here, but that shows you the number, the estimated number by states, by groupings of states. The unknown at the bottom, Texas, right now. Public opinion. Texas Native Cats worked with Texas A&M a couple of years ago on a public attitude survey toward mountain lions. And God bless Texas A&M because they did all the work. Other than we came up with the questions, but they did all of the distribution, all the collating of the results. You see some of the results here at the bottom. By the way, this survey is available on our website, texasnativecats.org, if you want to look at it. It's really interesting to read some of these results. You know, these are the top numbers here. Yeah, efforts should be made to ensure that they survive. We could certainly learn more by having some more research studies, and they're an essential part of nature. Yeah, they sure are. So in 2020, Texas Native Cats launched an effort that, and this has always been my belief for years, that it didn't have to be this way, that we could make a change. And so a group of us came together that we now call ourselves Texans for Mountain Lions. And there's a website by that name as well also. So we've been meeting now for over 3 years, every month. every month. It's a core group of us, probably about 10 that meet. And we're the ones that pushed this petition. In June of 2022, we had meetings with Texas Parks and Wildlife executive leadership, and these were our requests. Let's conduct some research. Let's have harvest or mortality reporting. Let's ban canned hunts. Do you know what that is? Some do, some don't. Okay, quite simply, a mountain lion is captured. Usually it's in West Texas. It was. A mountain lion is captured. It's put inside an enclosure where it can't get out. A hunter comes out with or without dogs, has a rifle, and the cat is let out of this enclosure briefly and blam. It is not what the hunters call fair chase. So that was another one. We wanted to ban that. We wanted 36-hour trap check times that is consistent with regs in Texas for fur bearers, right? We're not asking for the moon here. Let's just make it the same as what we do for fur bearers. Managed by region. As I mentioned, the population in West Texas versus South Texas, we believe is very different, to say nothing of the rest of the state, right? So managed by region. An advisory group. Let's have a group of people get together and figure out what is the best path forward. So what did Texas Parks and Wildlife do? They said, no, we're not going to do that. However, the Texas Parks and Wildlife Commission, which the commission is a regulatory body, they're appointed by the governor, 9 members, and they make rules and regulations for Texas Parks and Wildlife. This is not the legislature we're talking about. These are regulations, not laws. So we approached, the commission said they wanted to have a stakeholder group convened. Okay. And so the Parks and Wildlife says, we'll do it. So that happened. There were a number of people from all facets, ranchers, hunters, trappers, conservationists across the board that met 5 times in 2023. And out of that came a report that was delivered to the commission in January of this year. And the commission then directed Parks and Wildlife to plan at the March meeting, which was the next scheduled meeting for them, on 36-hour trap checks and canned hunting ban. March of this year, Parks and Wildlife presented its recommendations to the commission based on that January request. And on May 23rd of this year, I am delighted to tell you that the commission voted unanimously in favor of a ban on canned hunts, as well as 36 hours, and no live mountain lion may be left in a trap for 36 hours or more than 36 hours. Yeah. And I have to say, public opinion was invaluable in this. The commission wanted to know, what does the public think? So there was a survey available through Parks and Wildlife, and it asked people, what do you think? Do you have any comments? At this meeting on May 23rd, it was announced there were over 7,000 responses, which set a record. 91% were in favor. 91%. And what is also amazing is I heard from someone at Parks and Wildlife. I said, well, I would imagine most of the 91% were urban residents. And I was told, no, not really. So much so that there were even some West Texas ranchers that said, it's about time you did something for this cat. Whoa. So needless to say, folks, I will tell you that was one of the brightest days of my life. We were all just elated to hear that finally we've got some help for this cat. So fast forward, where are things now? All right, so these, again, going back to our petition points, conduct research. There will be more of that done, because one of the things is that we don't really know specifically where these cats are right now, how many we have, what the abundance is. There have been some studies done in Texas, but nothing ever approaching anything statewide. Harvest reporting, in other words, mandatory reporting of mortality, that's coming. That's coming. Canned hunts were banned May 23rd. Trap checks. The 36, no live mountain lion may be left in a trap for more than 36 hours. Although I will say, I think that one might evolve somewhat over time. All right, I would just tell you, and you can go back if you're really interested. All of these meetings are recorded. Go out to Texas Parks and Wildlife Commission meetings and you'll find the recordings out there. If you're interested to hear.
What do you mean evolve over time? Like be a smaller window?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I will tell you, like, if you go back and listen to that, the recordings by the commission was a little bit fuzzy on exactly how that would roll out, how it would be managed and so forth. Essentially what it means is ironic because you couldn't use the word trap check. You have to say, and this is what the reg says. It says no live mountain lion may be left in a trap for more than 36 hours, which essentially means you got to go check your traps every day. Really is what it amounts to. So managed by region, that is the culmination of all this work. That's what we want. We want a management plan for our cat like every other state with a mountain lion population has. And that's what we're pushing to get. The advisory group, at least that preliminary one, is finished. The work is done. They did their part. So there's more to come. That's my point. More good things to come for this cat. This is the happy group here outside of the Parks and Wildlife building on May 23rd. A lot of different folks there. Texans for Mountain Lions is certainly there. Sierra Club, Defenders of Wildlife, and others. So when the results were announced at the commission meeting about being 91%, and then the commission said they all voted unanimously in favor, we sat there, we just clapped. We couldn't cheer, but we did clap. So I'll leave you with this. Although science is necessary, it's not sufficient for the challenges ahead. Scientific and technological expansion uncoupled from public values made a huge difference in that outcome of those regulations, have been major contributors to the current ecological dilemma. Here are some sites for you to take a look at. TexansForMountainLions.org is our launch pad for all the work we're doing for mountain lions. Deep in the Heart, you've seen. Texas Native Cats has a newsletter. If you're interested, you can go out to our website and sign up for it there. We're, of course, on social media. We're always looking for volunteers. Love to have a Fort Worth chapter of Texas Native Cats. Really what Donna has been with us since day one, and bless her heart, she traipses over to Dallas periodically to help us, but we'd really love to get something going here in Fort Worth as well. And one other thing I mentioned, we are launching an education program on mountain lions in public schools in Texas this fall. It will be TEKS aligned. Yeah, so that's the start. The goal is, my grandiose idea here is someday I'd like to see it statewide for all of our species of cats, but it's a step at a time, I do want to bring this to your attention. This was a last minute thing I plugged in here. We have virtual guest speaker presentations that are free, right? Periodically. We had this woman, Amanda Dutt, speak to us last month, did a fantastic job talking about black bears and mountain lions in Texas. And I said, would you do it again later? And she said, yeah, sure. So she is planning to speak to us on September 29th on these two carnivores in Texas and her research. And if you are interested, you can, well, again, it's kind of obscured there, Monica@TexasNativeCats.org. Or you can find it on the website and just send me an email there and I will send you a link. Again, it's free. It's on a Sunday afternoon at 5:15. Lasts about an hour and 15 minutes or so. So, I forgot to mention, maybe you get AT for it too. Because AT, yeah, I know North Texas allows me to get AT for this. So with that, I am done. Thank you so much for indulging me. I'm sure I'm over time. Yes. Not too bad. Okay. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Back to the ocelots.
Uh-huh.
Where would the individuals come from to establish a breed?
Those are going to, yeah, sure. Where are the ocelots coming from that will be used to establish the breeding program? They will be coming from zoos. And interestingly enough, I can't divulge the details right now, but there will be some more information coming out very soon about this ocelot breeding program and the advances that they're making. It's some pretty interesting things. I got an email today from my contact at the East Foundation, and she said, yeah, that there will be an announcement probably from A&M Kingsville and others this fall. So yes, from the zoos, and there will be other zoos that will ultimately be involved. Yes, sir.
Yes, we had one from the Zoom. We had one of our members asked about a year ago. She was in Arkansas hiking and saw something that looked like a black panther, but that wasn't quite as big as a house cat. Or it was like definitely not as large, pure black.
Okay, what was it? Is that the question or what?
Yeah, it, like
Turned around and walked out slowly.
How far away was this person from it? Does it say? Doesn't say. Okay, again, I go back to what I mentioned earlier. I will say scientists have said that there's never been a confirmed sighting of a black panther. Now, Arkansas, however, is beginning to see some mountain lions. They're not enough so that there's an established population by any means. It's like Oklahoma has some too, but they don't have an established population at this point. But again, black panthers, no. Understand something else too. Cats, kind of like us, can have color variation. And the same is true of our mountain lion. I mean, you look at, and I don't have an image of it here, but you look at say some of the photos of those mountain lions in Chile. They're huge for one thing, and their fur is so thick because they're in the mountain. I mean, they're way up in the mountain. Let me tell you, it's cold down there. I've been there before. It's really cold. But the other thing is, like with a mountain lion or any cat or any person, depends a lot on the lighting too. If you see something under a tree where there's a lot of shadows, it may appear to be, a different color than what it is. And they can be.
You usually see what you want to see.
Well, that's that too. Yes, sir. Well said. That is so true. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
How extensive is the thorn scrub in South Texas? So I assume it's, these private lands in Polk County and.
Yeah, I don't know how extensive it is. I do know, I'll tell you this, I've gotten an email from, I don't remember the man's name, doesn't matter, but he's with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, asking me if I know anybody that has thorn scrub, that would be willing to donate it. So apparently there is not an abundance of it. I think it used to be more widespread, not surprisingly, like so many other things, and has just been destroyed over time. But that's a good question. So going back to my comment about the East Foundation, Lindsay Martinez with East Foundation presented to us on ocelots earlier this year, and she is going to present to us again once she gets some more information. I think we have become their conduit to the public in terms of presentations. So that would be an excellent question to pose to her. As a matter of fact, I can email her and ask her how widespread it is in the meantime. But look for that if you're interested in these presentations, because she will tell us what's going on with ocelots. Yes, sir.
How do they manage the compliance on the 36-hour tracking issue?
That's going to be, yeah, there was okay. How is the compliance handled with the 36-hour checks on these traps? Well, I will tell you that generated a lot of questions at the commission meetings. Ultimately, it's going to come down to the game wardens. And
that's a vote, all of those regulations, right?
Yeah. And the Stormy Daniels, I think is his name, is, yeah, what? No, yeah, I know it is. No, I'm not kidding. This poor guy. No, honestly, I think his last name is Daniels. I imagine he's had a heck of a time living that name down over the years, but I do know his first name's Stormy. We'll just leave it at that. So Stormy is, I don't know if he's in the chief of game wardens or what, but if not, he's the next level down. And he spoke a lot at that commission meeting in May about it, because the commissioners asked him the same question: how is this going to be enforced? Game wardens will have to enforce it.
They're supposed to tag their
traps, right? Because they have, I mean, from deep in the heart, they have like the bear traps that are like this, and they have like the cage, but they're supposed to tag them, right? With their own names and everything. They're not supposed to be tagged.
They don't have to, no. And most of them, we understand will not, because they don't want people to know who's doing it.
But that just amazes me that you have to tag your fishing traps, but you don't have to tag.
These are non-game animals.
I know, it's stupid.
I know. Okay, but here's a big part of the whole issue is that you're bringing up a very good point. But again, these are things that the public does not know, right? And if the public knows, whoever the public is, that's a very nebulous term, I realize. But if people find out this stuff, then there will be a real push. Like, what do you mean? No, you can't keep doing that. So, yeah.
What's a big resistance to protecting?
Landowners. Actually, okay, so it's livestock. Okay, so what's the big issue about the cats and you know, who's behind the not wanting changes for them? It's primarily been the landowners. I will say in my mind, it's twofold. One, yes, definitely livestock, particularly if you're talking about sheep and goats, because if there are mountain lions around, they'll just have a field day with sheep and goats. I mean, they're just like a kid in a candy store, and they go in and just slaughter them for the heck of it, seemingly. Yeah, they're cats, right? They're cats. Oh boy, this is fun. The other thing we learned though, I see Texas for mountain lions. This was a couple of years ago. We had a rancher talk to us one time, who with his family owns a gazillion acres in this state. I don't know how anybody can have that much land, but anyway, he said, we're not worried about our livestock. He meant cattle regarding the lions, because a cow or a steer is just too big for a lion to take down. Jaguars can do it, but not the mountain lions typically. He said, we're worried about our deer. Your deer?
Oh.
What do you mean? Well, he said, we get half our income of deer leases. And the fear is and a lot of these ranchers do that. I mean, it's a huge supplement to their income. And their concern is that these mountain lions will take out the prize bucks, I guess they are. Yeah, and in fact, a mountain lion typically only makes a kill about once a week, one kill. But that's the prevailing attitude. So you're fighting against entrenched attitudes. Although again, just what I told you, that you know, the people supporting this change were not. Some of them were some landowners. And honestly, I think too, some of it too, I think is generational, right? You know, it's like we jokingly say, we just need a few more funerals. But it will evolve over time. People don't like change. Yeah, I know a lot of you don't remember this, but some of you do. Remember when we had the seatbelt law take effect in Texas? You can't tell me what to do. I'm not gonna fasten a seatbelt, blah, blah, blah. And now look around you. I mean, almost everybody's wearing a seatbelt. So it just takes some socialization and some time, but we're getting there. Yes, ma'am, you had a question?
Yeah, what if some of these cattle raisers experimented with, who have feral hog problems, or would be willing to, you know, have some collared mountain lions? They are land points to those feral hogs.
Okay, so your question is, what if these landowners that have hog problems had collared mountain lions?
If they could be, you know, as an experiment to see if that might.
Oh, thwart the hogs?
Yeah.
Possibly. You know what does? So I told you I went out in April. I went out to San Angelo to this livestock guard dog program, an all-day workshop. Several of the livestock producers there said that the dogs will keep the hogs away. And I asked him later, I said, did I hear you correctly? And they said, yeah. And I said, why? Well, they don't know for sure, but they think just the presence of the dogs and the barking keeps them away. Now, the dogs don't go fight them or anything like that, but they said, yeah, it keeps them away. And you think, then why doesn't everybody get a livestock guard dog? Well, of course, there's an expense. They cost a little over $1,000 per dog. So that's a lot for a small producer. But yeah, I mean, your idea has some validity. Let's try some things, by all means. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, sir?
Presenting the captive breeding program, is this data or experience to show how successful that will be?
For the ocelots?
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, how successful will the captive breeding program be for the ocelots? It's TBD at this point. To my knowledge, they haven't, there have not been any successful fertilizations. I mean, this is all gonna be, in vitro. So, I'm sorry, not in vitro, artificial insemination. Time will tell. Time will tell. And it's probably going to require some, gee, that didn't work, so let's try this instead. I think it's going to require some tweaking. We'll see. But I mean, certainly it's worked with other species. So that's the hope here. Somebody just needs to tell the ocelots that. Anybody else?
Just to clarify, the assistant commander of the game worked is Stormy King.
Stormy King? Okay, thank you. He would probably, poor Stormy, he'd probably be throwing daggers at me right now if I said Stormy Daniels. Thank you for that. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. Much appreciated. Thank you.